Today's guest is someone who embodies what it means to turn passion into purpose and creativity into a calling. Alexa Bigwarfe is a USA Today best-selling author, publisher, and the founder of Write, Publish, Sell. And that's where she helps writers transform their stories into professional, profitable books. She also is the powerhouse behind the Women in Publishing Summit and runs two independent presses dedicated to amplifying women's voices. Thank you, Alexa, for joining me. Let's start off with your USA Today bestseller. That's fascinating.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I guess, yes, it's a lovely title to have. And I did actually earn it. And you can see my name on the list. I screenshotted it and I have it. I'm totally legit. We also were Washington Post and a couple of others that aren't. We never made it to New York Times. But it's an interesting story because it wasn't one of my own single authored books. It was actually a collaborative project. But what it did for me was really see and understand how much effort it actually takes to make those lists. And there were actually 24 of us. And so there's so many topics we could delve into here with the whole idea of collaborative books and all of those types of things. And a lot of them don't work because the person is basically charging money to bring a bunch of people into a book project. And it's a mishmash of topics or of content, right? That is not something you can easily promote to your audience. However, this one was the perfect design because it was for authors. And so it was 24 experts in the publishing industry who came together, and each of us wrote a chapter of our area of expertise. And so we had this basically like guidebook written by publishing professionals. And the second piece to that is that we all had email lists, large email lists of our ideal audience. So between a really good strategy of promotion, running ads, cross collaborating, doing webinars together, sending to our emails, and the other piece of it that people don't take into consideration is the fact that your book has to have sales in 3 or more platforms. So it can't just be the sales on Amazon. It has to be Amazon plus Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, at least 3 different major stores and companies. So it's a big ordeal, but we worked really hard and we made it.
That's amazing. Yeah, it is very hard. I get a lot of first-time authors, and that's one of their goals, which is fantastic. But I often have to make sure that they understand what it really takes to get there. And same with like, oh, I want my book in the bookstore in an airport. Can we make that happen? Well, you got to pay for it.
And your book has to be distributed outside of print on demand. So that's, some of these things are changing as time goes. Like this is the interesting thing about the publishing industry is that, especially with the print cost rising and with all of these other things happening, like there are some different doors that are opening. But the reality with the airports are a very special segment, and you have to have somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and like you said, the money. But it's gonna vary. But just back to your original point there, though, I think it's really important for first time authors with zero audience to have really realistic expectations. And if you're self publishing, it's almost impossible to hit a big list like that and is a frustrating goal. And so it's not something that I even, I don't even encourage people to think that way. Well, I encourage them to set it as a goal, as a big goal, but then they have to be willing to invest the time it takes. You have to be willing to invest 6 months to a year from the time you have a finished book to the time it's published to get out there and do all the things. So, you can still have a lot of fantastic success with the book without ever making it to the USA Today or New York Times or any of those places. So I think that's just something to consider because people think, oh my gosh, I didn't even get close. I'm a loser. No, you're not.
Yeah. And, I don't think they realize too just how few books that many authors will sell. Now, mind you, that's a lot of times authors aren't really good at marketing and publicizing their books. But, I had one author and she's it was like a couple months and there was 600 sales. I was like, that's great.
Hmm.
That's really good. And no travel involved, like no webinars, nothing, just or nice sales. And I was like, that's actually really good. But I want to talk about how you turned your passion into an actual full fledged, I've got a big team and I'm doing all these big things empire.
Well, it took 13 years, almost 14 years actually, to get where I am today. October 15th, 2013 was 12 years ago. And that's when my first book published. But obviously, there was a lot of things leading up to that. I started blogging and doing some other things back in 2012 and 2011, and then 2012. And at the time, the Kindle was still relatively new. Self-publishing had been around for a while, but it was growing, and this was the age of the mom bloggers. And what happened at that period of time was a lot of mom bloggers were starting to do anthologies, collections of stories. And so I participated in a couple of those. And I was thinking, this is kind of fun. I'd like to do this. And I started blogging because I had lost one of my infant twin daughters. And so we put together a group of moms and dads who had lost children, and we published Sunshine After the Storm, a survival guide for the grieving mother.
Oh,
And
that's a beautiful
basically,
title.
yeah. So basically what happened from that point in time was that I just found that I really enjoyed that process of project management and getting all the pieces together and creating something. It was also very cathartic and healing for me to be writing and doing all of those and working towards a goal of helping others. And there was another piece of it, and that was I had and you can appreciate this. I now had a special needs child at home, and I had no desire to ever go back into the workforce full time. I wanted to be at home, but we needed income. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And as I was saying, all of this stuff was growing. Self-publishing was really growing. And I didn't realize it, but I am very entrepreneurial. So people started coming to me and asking for help, and I developed ways to help them. And everything rolled out from there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's so awesome. That's funny because my career is really the turning point was my girls as well. So that's kind of funny that see what moms do. We just like,
Hmm.
hey, other people would see this as an obstacle. We're like, heck no, this is an opportunity.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately live in a country that doesn't really support working mothers. And so, but it also doesn't support stay at home mothers if you don't have one person earning a very large income. So sometimes we have to get really creative. And that's what I did. And it's been really cool because not only have I created a life for me and my kids, but I've also been able to employ a lot of other stay-at-home moms that wanted to do something else, didn't want to completely stop working, needed some extra money, whatever it was. And that's pretty much the makeup of 90% of my team.
Amazing. Yeah. That was something really important for me as well is that I wanted to create a culture so that if you needed to go to your kid's baseball game or a play or take somebody to the doctor, that's fine. You can I know you're an adult, you'll get your work done. And I love being able to provide that because that's one reason why I started working from home whenever Sienna was 3, because I
Mhm.
was constantly having to leave for doctor's appointments or, oh, she's hospitalized again or blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And it was so stressful. Now, mind you, at the time, my boss was really nice. I
Oh,
don't think
that's
he would
good.
have ever actually fired me, but it was just that fear of letting the team down, getting fired, whatever. And it just was, and plus daycare was so
Oh
expensive.
my gosh, no joke.
Wasn't even worth it. I think back then, and this was, 20 something years ago, I think it was $1,300 a
Oh,
month.
and you have multiples in there, and it's like, what? That was the other thing. My twins were babies 3 and 4, and they were all very close together in age. So I basically, my son was starting kindergarten, but I would have had multiples in daycare. And we were just like, this doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. And it's just, I don't know, I'm blown away. I actually recently had a guest and we were talking about this very thing about re-entering the workforce as a mom and how different it is and the challenges. And you just feel like everything got uprooted for you, but dad's pretty much a-okay.
Hmm.
I will say recently, I was on a call with somebody and he had his infant with him. And
Oh,
because he
I
said,
love it.
mom was sleeping. And so it was his turn. And I was like, oh my gosh. He's like, I hope you don't mind. I'm like, no, I think this is amazing.
Yeah, I do think that Gen Z and below are going to fix a lot of these things. That's what I keep holding on to hope with, is that, poor Gen Xers, we took the brunt of all the other generations of just wild things, and then, it's getting fixed for the rest of them. But
I know you're just making me think of how, uh, hustle culture and all this stuff that I just don't like. I mean, can I hustle? Absolutely.
do
Do
I
I think
want
that's,
to?
yeah,
It's
no.
it's funny that you say that because well, on a totally different note, speaking of working for yourself and driving yourself too hard and hustling and all of that, last year, I had
Yes,
a really weird thing happen to me. I had stomach pains, went in, my gallbladder was bad. They did an emergency surgery and something went wrong, very, very wrong. And I gained 40 pounds of fluid in 10 days, and my organs started shutting down, and nobody could figure out what was going on. And I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. And when I got sent home, I was using a walker because I couldn't walk because I had no muscles, but 40 extra pounds of fluid. And it was a nightmare. It was awful.
I
Um,
remember the postings and just going, "What is happening?"
and they don't know what happened. And the more like holistic and kind of woo woo people that I talk to, and the more that I look more at like the root of things and our mind body soul connection, the only thing that makes any kind of sense is the impact of stress and what that can do. Now granted, I also have some autoimmune issues, and I had a gallbladder and problem, and but those were like the inciting incidents. And then because I was so stressed out, and because all of those, so anyway, related that to hustle, like because I run my own business and there's a lot of things happening, like I was away for a while because I honestly, my
Right?
brain function didn't return for like 3 months, and I was just so ill. And so, but then I had to come back and I had to go straight back at it really hard because we had our first in-person conference coming up in a couple months. And I am trying so hard to get to a point right now where like hustle is a bad word. Like there are seasons of our lives, right, where we have to hustle, but I feel like I should be beyond that. So I'm looking at smarter, better ways
Yes.
to do what I'm doing. And with as much as people have issues with AI, for me it's been a godsend because it
Yeah.
is really helping me take processes and systems and things that took us hours, days, weeks to do,
Yeah.
and doing them in a minute, 2, 3
Yeah.
minutes.
Yep. Very, very true. I know. And, going back to your point about the team, that is something that I think a lot of solopreneurs don't realize. Like, if you
Mhm.
have a health issue, is your business going to stop?
Right.
Do you really need to be a solopreneur, or are there some things that you can outsource? And thankfully, whenever I had my medical issues last year, I did have a team. So, like
Yeah.
one time, I had to go to the hospital after an anaphylactic,
Oh my
going into
gosh.
anaphylactic shock. Thankfully, I knew my team is still getting stuff done.
Yep.
I don't have to worry. So it didn't add to stress of
Right.
not being able to breathe because my throat was closing,
And
that
that's
sort of,
why the next book that I'm writing, or the work that I'm currently writing, is called Death Proof Your Business. And it's all for solopreneurs, small business owners, and creatives on the things that they can put in place. Um,
love it.
because it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. it's when something will happen. You may not drop dead, but you're like the fourth woman who had a mate that I know personally that had like a major health issue and wound up hospitalized last week. I mean, last year.
Yep.
That's wild.
I know. I'm seeing it a lot. And I think it's because, especially as women, I feel like we are not necessarily um, given the narrative of building a team and a company. We're kind of, I think, systemically, it's going to be a little side business, cute little thing you do at home. And, while there's a season for that, or if that's what you like, then sure. But for those of us who don't like the corporate environment, want to create our own environment that feels better, but we can still build empires.
Heck yeah, we can from our messy home offices.
Well, I've been working from home, for almost 20 something years now, just like you've been flexible. And even now, some people still like look at me as if I've got this cute little side hustle. And I'm like, I have a team. We're like 6 figures was like so long ago.
Right. Right.
What?
I know. It is people have their perceptions and their misperceptions, I would say. But yeah, that was a challenge for me too, because when I started my business, I was married and he was not supportive of this at all. His take on the situation was while he was going to a job that he hated every day, I was at home playing around, living my high life, doing whatever I wanted to do. And he did not understand that I was balancing 3 small children, taking them to play dates and things, making sure they were fed and bathed and clothed and all of the things all day long, taking care of the house, taking care of the dog, taking care of the groceries, making all the dinners, and trying to write some books and build a business that would bring in some extra money. So, when I think back to how much effort put in and then also battling with someone who thought that I was just I don't know what he thought I was
Yeah.
doing. He had this idea that I put the kids in daycare all day and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what he
Painted your
thought I was doing, like just playing. And,
big
and
mom on.
I was like, no, the children are not in daycare. Let me assure you, we do not have the money for that. And so yeah. I think I hope that I think that it's going to be interesting. I know this is off topic, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the next generation of women, having seen now 3 very different generations. If you look at their grandmothers and great grandmothers, mothers, and now this age of women, so 3 to 4 generations, and how different our
Yeah.
lives as working women or stay-at-home moms have been. So it'll be pretty fascinating. But I will say, having a son, as well as 2 daughters, like I think boys are being raised in a very different way too. So
Well, and to go back to you mentioned about the health stuff and the woo and whatnot. My health issues caused me to dive even further into all this stuff as well. And the more I've discovered, like learned about neuroscience and quantum physics, it's not woo at all.
no. No, it's
It's
actually
just
very scientific. It actually makes a lot of sense. Like with all the energy that we have in our bodies, and it's been fascinating because affirmations are a great example. Like at the end of the day, if I stand out on my front yard and throw my hands to the air and say, "Universe, make me a best-selling author," it's not going to happen, right? But the reality is when you're doing things the right way, when you're planting seeds and ideas in your head, when you start the day with intentions and saying, I'm going to be a best-selling author, and then, universe, please bring this to me and I'm going to go do the work that I need to do as well. I'm going to write the good book. I'm going to spend the time to write a good book and to get it edited and to work on my craft and to do my marketing. And because you're filling yourself with a whole different kind of outlook.
yeah.
And it's
Well, and even
amazing
the Bible does the same thing.
yeah.
Yes, you can pray about something, but you still got to do your part.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. So it's fascinating. I've been on a
Yeah.
huge self-development kick lately, and
Yep.
the difference that it makes when you are working on yourself and doing things, and now it makes so much sense to me. I mean, it's not like it didn't make sense, but every time I go to conferences over the past however long, decade, 12, 13 years, you hear these people, you see these people, and you're like, how did they get where they are? And almost every single one of them, almost every successful person that I know says some variation of they read a lot, they work on themselves a lot, they're always
Yep.
learning, they're always developing, they're always growing as a human.
Yep.
And I'm like,
I was
huh,
just telling somebody that yesterday. I was like, look at everyone who is successful in a variety of ways, whatever success is for that person. It's always back to personal growth,
yep,
mindset,
yep,
um, all of the resilience. I mean, and I tell people, now that I've learned all these things and have all these tools, it's not like my life is less stressful. Life is actually more stressful right now than it
right.
was a couple of years ago. But I have so many more tools and I can keep my nervous system regulated and I can keep boundaries. I can say no and it be a full sentence. And, it's just so much nicer. Which kind of leads nicely into how has your definition of success evolved as both a creative and CEO now?
That's a tough one because I think it changes. I think there's always I used to look I used to look very far into the future and have these very big goals and say, "Okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z because I want to have a house in France. I want to have this, I want to have those kinds of things. Like I want to I'm not a I just want these specific things, right? So I would view my success from a very much financial standpoint in terms of what I need to be able to put enough aside and work towards those goals. And I realized that was really not healthy mindset wise or realistic because things change so much. I mean, look what happened with COVID. Nobody could have seen that coming. There's been so many things that have happened in the past 10 years of my life that have altered the course of my future that it seems silly to put everything into something so far out. So now what I do is I still have my big goals. Those are important. We have to be working towards something. But for me, success really these days comes down to am I making enough to profit and to live comfortably, because it is no fun with those days when I had like nothing in my fridge and no money and was having to pay off one credit card to pay and all this. Yeah, so no, don't want to be there again. So am I making enough money to feel comfortable, and am I living a life that if when next time I'm on my deathbed, am thinking, am thinking I'm okay with going. And I don't, and that was like a fear. That was the scariest part about being so sick, was like I didn't feel like I had lived the life and personally, like spent the time with my kids, because it with kids, we love them, but it's so much, they are a job. Like it's the things we have to do: get them up, make sure they brush their teeth, get them dressed, get them to school, to help them with their homework. It's just one thing after another, and sometimes you forget to just like enjoy them. So I've been trying to slow down and to say, I don't have to do all of these things today. I do not have to be the number one growing book and publishing, business, whatever, this year. That's a goal that I can keep working towards. What I do need to do is make sure that I spend the last 3 years that my daughter's in high school showing up for her as much as
Yeah.
I can and being there, because I can't ever get that back. So, there's some things on my list that I still really, really want to accomplish, but I think success is so it's so negotiable,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
That's why I've always said, my belief statement is that I believe women should confidently pursue the success they desire.
Yes.
And, so if that's staying at home, go for it. Like, if that's your desire in your heart, absolutely go for it. And I know sometimes when you have more than one at home, it's really not a choice.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, I know for me, it's about freedom and choice.
Yes. Okay. You just boiled my ramblings on. That's exactly what it is for me. It's freedom and choice. I don't want to live by anyone else's rules or requirements. And for especially as a single mom, like I don't want to take any money from my ex-husband. That is like, well, none has been offered to me, but that's I don't ever want to be in a place where I feel like I need it, you know? So,
100%. What is one business mistake that you see authors make a lot?
oh gosh, where do we start? Um and I say this as an author as well. I think the biggest thing is that so many people don't think of it as a business. They're thinking of themselves as the creative writer that they are, whether you're writing a nonfiction or not. Like you, the people that are called to write books, we're creative in some way, or we have somebody else do the whole thing for us. But for not taking the time to look forward. It's funny because I just said I don't look too forward anymore, but this is different. When it comes to mapping out a plan, it's known that if you don't take certain steps, you're not going to have success, a certain level of success, or it's going to take you a lot longer to get there. So they spend a lot of time writing without as much time thinking about the what then? What am I
Yeah.
trying to get from this? Am I writing it for the right person and people? Do I have a system set up to get in front of those people? How am I going to do that? What do I do with them once they're there? And what do I do? This is the big one, I think, that they don't make a plan for really earning money because one book, unless you're a speaker or a professional and that's a tool to use to people to get into your business, but for most of us one book will never be enough to live off of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even look at there's a Harry Potter series.
And she just keeps adding stuff on there. Now, I mean, she's gotten ridiculous. I think she could probably stop selling anything and be good the rest of her life. But good for her. You know, good for
Yeah.
her to continue to find new ways to make money. But that is what successful authors do. They think beyond the book. They think, I'm going on a cruise next summer with romance, sweet romance, readers, and
Oh, how
authors.
fun.
Yeah, and I'm going to be one of the featured authors, and we're going to go, and we're going to get to meet up with everybody and have a good time. And yeah, so it's fun stuff. It's fun outside of the box stuff that you think about. How can I take this and grow it? How can I have more? Because it's not a greed thing. It's a stability thing, and it's a fallback measure. What happens if people decide they don't want to read your paperback books anymore and no sales happen that way and it's where you generated most of your income before. You have to have other things in the hopper.
That makes me think of, I was thinking about this morning. So, Dan Martell was talking about how he thinks colleges will be obsolete in 5 years because you can just have Chat GPT create the curriculum for you. And, I do know that a lot of times reading passively is somewhat obsolete. A lot of people listen to audiobooks and whatnot. But where do you think books are going to fall, I guess, or be in the mix with AI? Do you think people will still read books or will they just hop on AI?
I think that people still like some kind of connection with reality. I look at my office and granted I'm in the book industry, but I love books. I have stacks and stacks. I love them as long as and so do most of my friends and even down to the millennials and those groups right below that. Like we still love books. Books play a huge role. There are certain things that I don't think are going to go away anytime soon. And to be honest, like for example, they've gone to these Google classrooms. It is so hard for me now, maybe with them because they're used to it, but to find everything in all the places. Whereas when you had a textbook, it's right here. It's one place. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think that we all have to be flexible and ready for the changes that come our way. And the one thing that is true is that change is coming, change will happen, and we have to adapt. But just, I hope that books never, ever fully go away because they're wonderful.
Yeah. I still like a good physical book. I've got them all over my office as well,
Mm-hmm.
and in storage and a whole bunch of other places. I still have the original full set of the Babysitters Club.
I did. I did. I got rid of, unfortunately, a bunch of stuff when we moved, and I really regret that now. But
Yeah, I'm so glad that they're in storage. So glad I hang on to them. So I was like, oh my gosh, I used to love these. I was a big reading nerd. I
me
mean,
too.
I was reading biographies at like 11 and 12, like a nerd. But I don't think that books will go away either. Maybe print will die down to some degree, but I don't know. I still like that physical thing. I still write on my notebooks, and there's such a mind physical
Yeah,
connection that happens there that changes the way we absorb the information. And there's science that proves all that. And so I do think that we'll continue needing new stories, and as well as just new stories themselves. Like AI isn't learning from anything new. It can't
yeah.
make up
That's
something.
right. That's exactly
So
right. It has to
it's
take from
something
what's
you got.
there, and also it doesn't have emotions. It doesn't know how to create emotions. It can only take from what other people have written. So, um I don't know if you've ever played around with seeing what it would look like. I wanted to experiment. So I took some chapters of my book and loaded into AI and said, what would where do you think this story should go? And it took it off in some weird direction. Even though I had said, I want this to happen and this to happen, like granted, the AI is going to get better, but Chat GPT currently hallucinates a lot. It brought in characters that didn't exist and acted
Yeah.
like they'd been there the whole time. I mean, it was wild. So I was like, okay, I feel a little bit relieved right now. I don't think creative writers are out of a job anytime soon.
Well, and there's also the energetics behind it. Quantum physics talks about how everything has energy, and we're all everything is vibrating. Like
Yes.
my cup is vibrating right now. We're vibrating, and so we're putting off energy, and our words will carry that along with it.
Yeah.
And so when we write something, the energy is there and it gets transferred. And
Yeah.
I was talking to one of my past guests, and that's very much what happens with their paintings.
Oh,
And
yeah, I see that.
it's like the paintings end up with who she envisioned but didn't know. And it's just really cool. So that's another reason why I don't think AI is going to completely take over all of our writing and whatnot, because the energetics behind it, it's going to need to connect. Otherwise, it's going to throw everything off balance, which will not fall in line with another universal law. So
And also, what are we all going to do? Like if robots and AI does everything, what we're going to be so bored. So people will be writing and reading books.
yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I know. It's like, well, there's only so many things, but I'm sure we'll come up with new
Oh,
jobs,
I'm
just like before
sure.
the computer. Before the computer was around, computer science wasn't a thing. So,
Right, right.
um, yeah, I like to tease, some of the younger people in my sphere, and I'll say, I raised my kids without Facebook groups, without ChatGPT, and I'm like, I had to Google stuff on Ask Jeeves because Google wasn't even around yet.
Right. And when I was in college, there was you had to go to the library, to the actual library to research things and find it we were just starting to get the internet, but it didn't have a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I have I guess I say pen pal. We've still never met in person, but they accidentally emailed me when I was in college, and we just developed a friendship, and we still keep in touch. And this
wow.
was 30 years ago.
Wow.
So it's, really cool. But I digress on that one.
Tired of overpriced energy drinks full of junk? Same. That's why I use Babello, a self-carbonating hydration packet that gives you clean energy, electrolytes, and vitamins without the crash. Just add water, shake, and sip. It's way more affordable than typical energy drinks and way better for you. Use code ChrissyBernal15 at checkout to get 15% off at drinkbabello.com. Hydration just got an upgrade.
So many women struggle with promoting themselves. I know whenever I put my book out, my publisher told me not to do my own publicity or marketing because I would look vain. And I didn't want to look vain.
Your publisher told you that?
Yes. That's one of the reasons why I got into the book
Wow.
side of things as well, because it was really painful, that disappointment from my book flopping.
Yeah.
Nobody did any marketing or publicity.
Because somebody who's not you can't promote you. I mean, they can come up with a plan. Obviously, this is what you do, but you know this, like it's the connection with the person that makes so much of a difference in those book sales.
Yeah, like, and there's one author that he has in his books, he puts his email and says, email me and I will reply. He does reply.
Mm.
And I'm like, I'm definitely going to buy whatever your next book is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
But I
yeah,
think,
what are your favorite ways for promoting?
oh gosh, it's hard. I think I struggle promoting myself tremendously because I was raised very much in a you talk too much, you're too loud, be quiet, sit down, like stay out of the spotlight, go away, psh. So now it's like and be humble, all of those kinds of things. So I have this hard time. I'll be like, well, I wrote this book and I really like the story and I think it's pretty good. But so this is why it's critical to have advanced readers, trade reviews, editorial reviews, other people, outside people saying this is a good book, because then I don't have to say, I can say, hey, check out my Kirkus review, check out this, check out, let me play you I just got a message from one of my advanced readers yesterday crying. She was like, I just finished the book and it's so beautiful. And I'm like, I'm so using this recording in all of my marketing.
That's amazing.
So
amazing.
yeah, using other people's you have to be the one who shares it on your platform and gets out there and does things. But I think that when you connect with people, when you build relationships with people on social media and you're just having a good time talking and engaging and interacting, like you don't have to do so much promotion, because what you are doing is you are creating someone that they want to know more about, and someone that they are, even if they don't all buy your books, they may say, you know what, I met this really cool author and she writes this kind of books. And, that's that word of mouth marketing and other people doing that. But you have to start that. You have to give them that before they can.
I was thinking about this morning too. You're kind of talking about, even creating a community around you. And I think with AI, the advances in AI, we are going to crave that connection even more. And that in person, the on the phone, we're going to crave that. And, scientifically speaking, we were created to get that energetic exchange. And so I think you're spot on with get that community going. And for new authors, I know that's hard, but give yourself time. Just know that if you're starting with zero, don't expect to have, Oprah call you in 6 months.
It's not going to happen. I've been waiting for years for Oprah to call me.
I know that goes against, technically in the quantum field, all possibilities are available or open, but I'm saying statistically, it's not likely.
No, I've set my sights on Reese Witherspoon. I've decided that she and I need to be best friends, and I need to be part of her book world. So,
I agree. Reese, if you're listening, which I'm sure you are,
I'm
right?
sure. I mean, obviously.
I think You could write a really good movie for her.
I think so
I
too.
definitely think you could.
Yep.
So yeah, let's put that out there
We'll
and
definitely put it out there.
make that happen.
She has the total vibe of the type of leading female that I
Yeah.
envision when I'm writing many of my stories too.
Yeah. When you write, do you write with one person in mind that's reading your book?
I don't. I try not to think of the people reading my book actually, because I would usually think about like my mom or my sister. And then I have a really
Um,
hard time, like, oh man, now I can't write any sex scenes because all I'm thinking about is my mom. Right. And so I write all closed door now. I was like, well, we'll just nip that in the bud. There's just never going to be any. And then we don't have to worry about the weirdness behind it. But no, it's funny though, because now knowing authors and I think of them when I'm reading their books, that
mm,
kind of like so most of my characters are very close to me. Like you can see a lot of me. And some of them like we pull off and there's some pieces of like characteristics that I wish I had or something like that. But so far, well, and the first book, 4 Days in Paris, it literally is a fiction book written around my story. So it is me, which was very challenging to so hard to write because I wanted to stay true to the story as much as possible and true to the other people in the story. But also, I had to make a whole lot of stuff up for the story to work because it's a fiction book. And then also, like, I was weirded out by some of the things that we did and I wanted to tell about in the story and all of my friends and family reading it because so I had to tone it down a lot. But the second book in the series was way easier for me to write because it was completely made up. I mean, it follows the same group of people, but by this point in time, I had moved into a completely fictionalized world about them.
nice.
So
That's awesome. That's really cool. I always love hearing about the process that writers go go with. And you have a publishing summit coming up in March, right?
yes. Yep.
Tell me about that.
So the Women in Publishing Summit is a wonderful community if you are craving community, whether you are a first-time author. We've got authors who have published 70 books. We've got people who haven't even started writing their first book. We have fiction authors, nonfiction authors. But the cool thing about the Women in Publishing Summit too is it's not just authors in our community. We have our publicists and we have our editors and we have publishers and self-publishing assist. And what my goal is with that community, speaking of people paying a ridiculous amount of money for bad services, my goal is to create a mixing bowl where we all come in together and you get to know people. And then it's not just who should I look for PR and Google somebody. It's like, oh, I talked to Chrissy at the summit. We really had a great connection. And so I'm following up with her. So that's a big piece of it. And we've moved over the years from doing a conference that's more based on like very like a writing craft day, a routes to publication day, a production day, marketing and all that stuff into more of a community, networking, collaboration, and true stories of how people are successful in what they're doing, how they made it, panels talking about different elements, and really just like coming together and getting to know each other and learning together and growing together. But it's all still wonderful. Like you're going to leave with great takeaways. Like if you want to know how to build that platform, well, come hear it from these authors who were first time authors and came together and created their own little community and did these things. So I'm very excited about it. And that
Yeah.
that is in March, but we're also doing more deep dive boot camps. We're doing a 2-part content strategy
Oh,
thing. So, what type of content do you need to be creating to grow your platform? How much do you need to create? What places should you put it? What tools should you use to do it? And this one's a fun one because it's 2 parts. And the first part we're teaching, and then people will get a homework assignment. And in January, it will be feedback on that with the guests,
oh,
experts,
nice.
and really taking that and implementing it so that it's not just you didn't just come and learn about some stuff and then stick it on your to-do list for another day.
That's awesome. Because, yeah, a lot of conferences or webinars, workshops, whatever, you'll learn a bunch of stuff, get really excited, and then you go back to the real world and
Exactly. Exactly. We're really shifting. We're also having an in-person event in March that's more marketing focused and business growth, but we're really shifting to make sure that all of our events are obviously you want to learn and you want to be inspired. So we'll still have some great teaching and we'll still have some great keynotes, but really hands-on things like taking a concept, talking about it, and stopping and saying, all right, let's implement it. Let's go through step 1, 2, and 3 so you can watch me or I can show you or you can do this with me or whatever, so that now you have a better idea of what that's going to take. Um, because yeah, it's just nobody has time anymore to just go and absorb information and then do anything with it. And so by the time you leave our in-person event, you'll have like a whole bunch of videos created for content that you can
oh,
use all over
fun.
the place, a whole bunch of posts for social media, your plan for X, Y, and Z. And that stuff has to be created continuously. So new
Yes.
headshots, especially for the business builders, like you need great sizzle reels or whatever, or reels of you like interacting with people if you're a business builder. And so working to do a lot of stuff like that. I'd actually love to talk to you more about the March event offline, the
Yeah,
in-person event.
absolutely. Yeah, I've attended it, and it's such a great and affordable event. I think that's one of the kickers, because a lot of, especially first time authors, they see something that's like $10,000. They're like, oh gosh,
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
Especially if they're not confident they're going to have actionable things. But yeah, yours. I definitely endorse for sure. What advice would you give to a woman who's ready to stop hiding and finally put her work out into the world?
Wow, that is a question that I need to think about for a second. It's here's the thing. It really depends on which side of the writing world you're on. So if it's something that is a passion project or something you've just had on your heart to do for a long time, you don't necessarily need to do all the things that someone who is really trying to make a really good first impression do with the book. So even for fiction authors, the reality is it's going to be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 books in before you have an audience that's big enough to sustain you and to bring in enough money from making a living as an author. So if you spend all your time being worried about all the details and perfection and, all the things, you're never going to make it. So sometimes with that, just get out there, just do the book, get better. And then as you start growing an audience, take down the books that maybe weren't as good, right? So but for nonfiction, if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to break out as an expert, a thought leader, a speaker, any of those things, you've just got to get out there and own it, and you need to take the time and do it the right way. Pay the experts to make sure you have a well edited book. This is the other thing. Like, you can be the worst writer in the world and still wind up with a good book if you hire the right people and are willing to pay for that to work out. So make it look professional. Take the time to have it formatted properly. It is your announcement to the world that you are a serious professional. So in terms of, being scared of being seen, well, you have to have a pep talk. Go back and do some of the develop a self pep talk. Go look at some of the books that help you build self-esteem. Start doing some self-esteem building things, because at some point in time you have to make a choice. What is more important to me, hiding or being successful? And that's really all there is to it, right? You can overcome almost anything. You can't overcome your height. That's not something you can change, but in terms of shyness and fear and speaking and all of those things, you can learn how to get better at all of those. You can practice, you can train, you can do all of those things. So everybody has imposter syndrome. I heard I think it was on Oprah's podcast I was listening to, actually. She was sharing a story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, even Oprah doubts herself sometimes. So, that's never going to go away. But if you sit back in your fear and never move forward because you're so afraid, what is somebody going to think? Am I the person to do this? Who am I to write this book? All those kinds of things. Then you're just going to stay stuck. And that's no good.
I love that. And you're so right about the judgment. And one of the things I tell women is people are judging you already.
Yeah, right?
You might as well go for it.
But Chrissy, we carry so many stories that are just ridiculous sometimes. And I am the worst at this, especially now where everybody's on text messages and emails and stuff. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, if I don't hear back from somebody within like 5 or 10 minutes, my first response is, did I do something to make them mad? And I'm like, what? Your last interaction was, especially like with my fiance, I love you. I love you too. Hey, do you want to do blah, blah, blah? And I don't hear from him for several hours. Oh my gosh, what happened? Are we breaking up? Is it over? And I'm like, what? Well, like, he's working. Like,
I know, I think they say over 95% of the things we say to ourselves are negative. So
yes.
Now,
Yes.
I'm sure you're better at this too, but catching that right in the moment instead of sitting in it and going, no, that was a stupid thought. Next.
Listen, if you can tolerate a lot of bad language and a really funny British woman, I highly recommend the podcast, The Law of Attraction Saved My Life with Francesca Amber. She drops the F-bomb and some other words like nobody's business. And but if you can tolerate that, her messaging is on point. And I've been listening to things like that are more uplifting and that are good. And I had the realization the other day. I was like, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And I was like, you know what? I've been listening to Fran like on a loop almost nonstop the last couple days. I haven't been on social media. I haven't been checking the news. I haven't been doing these things. And she's just filling me with hope and inspiration and, and a little bit of tough love, but she's positive. There's no like negativity, and it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. What you absorb, whether it be your mind or your food, what you hear, all of that matters 100%. That's great. I'm going to have to check her out for sure.
Oh gosh, you'll fall in love with her if you can stand the language. Like, I know a lot of people don't like that, but I think she's hilarious. But
Well, I'll check her out for sure. Well, Alexa, where can people catch up with you or the summit or in your books?
Yeah. Well, probably the best place to go for anything related to conference is womeninpublishingsummit.com. And then if you want to reach out to me personally for anything, just look me up. I'm on Instagram, Alexa Bigwarfe. I'm on Facebook. I'm in all the socials, all the places. I'm working on getting my own website up there. But if you contact us through Write, Publish, Sell or through the Women in Publishing Summit, it comes to someone on my team who will get it to me. And then my fiction books are under my pen name, which is Lexi Haddock, Haddock. So if you go look up 4 Days in Paris by Lexi Haddock, and then there's the third book in that series. It's a holiday rom-com, which has been a joy to write.
Awesome. Ooh, I can't wait I love holiday rom-coms.
Me too.
I look forward to reading that one. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know we covered a lot of topics, but I'm sure that at least one of them, if not many of them, there were several women going, okay, I needed to hear that.
This was a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having me, Chrissy.